One day in March of 1907, a traveling preacher showed up in the coal mining town of Davy, West Virginia. At the time, Davy was an unincorporated community that was essentially owned and controlled by the Pocahontas Coal Company. The preacher stood up and gave an impassioned speech to his impromptu group of congregants. He preached that blessed are the poor, but he also argued that the Pocahontas Company ought to be paying his workers better and treating them with more respect. In an apparent gesture of hospitality, one of the managers from the coal company invited the preacher to come to his house for dinner that evening. When the preacher arrived at the manager's house for dinner, he didn't receive any hospitality, but instead the beatdown of his life. The door closed behind him, and they clubbed his face and his ribs until several bones broke, and they left him bleeding on the floor of the town's church. Following this assault, coal miners from Davy fired off a letter to the owner of the Pocahontas Coal Company and told him to prepare himself for war. This single act of violence is just a small footnote in a series of long, brutal labor conflicts between coal miners and company owners during the coal wars of the early 20th century. From Ludlow, Colorado to Blair Mountain, West Virginia, coal companies and workers had major disputes that escalated into full-on battles that called in the United States and state military to help bring things back under control. Most of the coal from Davy, West Virginia went to the U.S. Steel Company to help refine steel. But all that industrial progress came with a human cost, and nowhere was that more apparent than in places like Davy, West Virginia.